Here on Steelers Talk, we are doing a special promotion for NFL free agency where if we can get 1,000 new subscribers here on the channel by Sunday night, we are going to be doing a Steelers jersey raffle on next week's live show. And we only have 374 more subscribers to go with just 3 days left on the clock. So if you want a chance to win a brand new Steelers jersey on Steelers Talk Live next week, go ahead and click that subscribe button for me right now. A very happy St. Patrick's Day to you, Steeler Nation. Welcome into the show. I am your host, Jack Sperry. Today, Jonah Williams has requested a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals. Should the Steelers consider trading for him? And then Jalen Carter, we're going to be talking about his awful pro day the other day. Will he be falling to the Steelers at number 17? I'm going to give you my take on that, and then we're going to have some updated free agency targets of players that are still available on the free agency market. But first here, let's go right into the Jonah Williams stuff here. So he's requested a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals after the Bengals signed Orlando Brown Jr. just the other day to replace him at left tackle. Ian Rappaport broke the news this morning saying, in the wake of the Orlando Brown signing, Bengals offensive tackle Jonah Williams has requested a trade through his agent Ryan Tollner, sources say. Just 25 years old with 47 career starts at left tackle protecting Joe Burrow, Williams becomes the top tackle available if Cincinnati is willing to move on. So Jonah Williams has been a pretty solid player in this league for a while. You take a look at his PFF grades over the last couple of years throughout his career here. 70.1 in 2020, 74.5, which was his career best PFF grade there, 32nd in the National Football League. And then last year he took a bit of a dip with just 61. He definitely took a dip, which is why the Cincinnati Bengals went out and made that splash for Orlando Brown Jr. But Jonah Williams is still a young player, and he's still got a ton of potential, and the Steelers could potentially look to get a new left tackle to anchor their offensive line. You look at Jonah Williams, man, 6'5", 312 pounds, man, first-round pick. This guy was considered a blue-chip prospect coming out of Alabama just a couple of years ago. But, man, last year, 12 sacks allowed. That is scary, which is why he's going to be leaving the Cincinnati Bengals. Big-time dip in production last season. And it's known now that the Steelers were in the running for Orlando Brown Jr., so they were looking for a left tackle of the future, and now that Jonah Williams is available, it's definitely possible that Omar Khan will make a phone call to Cincinnati to see if they would be willing to trade him within the division. So Pittsburgh would likely need to extend him if they were to trade for him, because he's got a pretty high price tag here with $12 million about that per year on just 1 year left on his deal. So if they trade for him, they're probably going to give him an extension to try to lower that cap hit at least just a little bit. But to be honest, guys, I doubt that the Bengals trade him within the division. I think that they're going to try to trade him somewhere in the NFC first, and then if no one in the NFC wants him, there's a team that gives them a pretty good deal in the AFC, but outside the division, they'll probably go with that team over the Steelers. So even if the Steelers want him, I don't really see this happening, in my opinion. But go ahead, go into the comments section right now and tell me, should the Pittsburgh Steelers trade for Jonah Williams to be their next left tackle? Type hell yes or hell no in all caps. This is the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever you get an ad break here, just go right down to the comment section, find that pinned comment. It'll be right there at the top and answer today's question. So now let's shift over to Jalen Carter, who had one of the worst pro days I think I've ever seen the other day. It was earlier this week. He came in 9 pounds heavier than he was in Indianapolis at the Combine just a couple of weeks ago. He had to stop what he was doing with the positional drills because he was cramping up. Now, Jalen Carter, he's seen as one of the top prospects in this year's NFL draft class. He is an absolute menace as an inside pass rusher. He's also a great run defender. I mean, the Georgia defense over the last couple of years has been one of the best defenses in college football history. And Jalen Carter, you can make a serious argument that he was the best player on either one of those defenses. You take a look at his stats from last season: 32 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, the 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and an insanely high PFF grade there at 92.3, which is good for 3rd in the country. So coming up here, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on Jalen Carter. If he's going to fall to number 17 to the Steelers, would I take him if I were the Steelers? All that good stuff. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor at Athletic Greens. I drink AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day, and I love it. Get comprehensive and convenient daily nutrition at athleticgreens.com/chatsports. I gave AG1 a try because I wanted more sustained energy throughout my day and wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. I take AG1 in the morning and it makes me feel ready to take on my day. AG1 combines all of your key health products in one convenient and tasty beverage. And in my line of work, guys, especially during NFL free agency, sometimes you have to put in those long hours. So AG1 helps me feel energized and sharp so I can be at my best no matter how busy my schedule gets. Covering my nutritional basis for the day literally couldn't be any easier, which is why I trust Athletic Greens. I just mix 1 small scoop of AG1 with 12 ounces of water and drink it first thing each morning. Done. Simple. Easy. And I also like that it costs less than $3 a day, which is definitely less than the Starbucks you're drinking every single morning. It's a really effective daily habit with the highest quality source ingredients, which is a win-win for you and your health. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplemental routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. That's athleticgreens.com/chatsports. Check it out. The link is in the description and comment section of today's video. All right, so now my take on this, guys, with Jalen Carter is that there are players that I would draft ahead of him. If somehow he falls to number 17 here and the Steelers have the chance to take him, there's only 4 players that right now I would take ahead of him. Let's take a look at those 4 names here. All 3 of the top offensive tackle prospects, Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State, and Broderick Jones from Georgia, I would take ahead of Jalen Carter right now. I think that because the Steelers don't have an offensive tackle of the future, I'm sorry, I just don't think Dan Moore Jr. is that guy, that if you have a chance to take a franchise left tackle and you really like one of those top 3 guys and they're available for you at 17, I'm taking one of those guys. And then with Terrell Edmunds not re-signed, they haven't really signed a strong safety yet, I would take Brian Branch as well because he's one of the most versatile secondary pieces I have ever evaluated for the NFL draft. He can play nickel cornerback if you want. You can even plug him on the outside if you really want to. This guy is fast. He's a good tackler, plays with great technique, and he can play a multitude of positions. I would take him above Jalen Carter, but if all 4 of these guys are off the board, I would probably, if you take a look at Jalen Carter, what he can bring to the table, you could probably say, you can make an argument that the steel curtain would return to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We haven't had a pass rush of this kind of sort. If you add Jalen Carter, you got TJ Watt, you got Alex Highsmith on the edges, and then you got Cam Heyward and Jalen Carter rushing the passer from the inside. Now, the Steelers do run a 4-3 normally, right? But, the Steelers run a ton of nickel packages as well. These 4 would be the guys on those third down situations, rushing the passer. And what I would say to opposing offenses trying to stop this pass rush, all I have to say to that is good luck, man. This would be the steel curtain reincarnated, in my opinion. That's if, of course, Jalen Carter pans out in the National Football League. But, man, if Jalen Carter is there at number 17, you definitely have to think about it if you're Omar Khan. So let me know in the comments right now, will Jalen Carter fall to the Steelers at number 17. It was one of the worst pro days I think I've ever seen. He's definitely going to fall a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes. So will he get to 17? Type Y if you think yes, or type N if you think no. So now free agency has been going on here last couple days. Omar Khan and the Steelers front office have made some pretty big moves here to kind of address some of the needs of the roster. But I think that there's still some things that they could add here in the coming days. So let's start with offensive tackle. Now, I personally, I'm in favor of going and drafting a tackle, but they did go after Orlando Brown Jr. They didn't get a deal done, but these are kind of the 3 guys that I think are on the table for Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, and the Steelers to go get in the coming days. Donovan Smith kind of fits what the Steelers are trying to do, establishing a power run game. He's a good power blocker. Didn't have a great year last year, but he is a scheme fit. And if they're going to sign anybody, I would probably go with Donovan Smith. But you could also go with Taylor Lewan, somebody that's going to be a bit cheaper, probably a 1-year deal. But he's getting older. He's had 2 ACL tears in the last 3 years. That scares me a lot. And then Isaiah Wynn, another guy that's played mostly right tackle and he hasn't really been all that great. So personally, I would rather draft a tackle, guys. I really would. I would rather, even if it means trading up a couple of spots to go get a guy like Broderick Jones, I think that it's worth it to get somebody, have price control on them for a rookie contract, somebody that's younger, somebody that has a lot of potential. I just think that there's a lot of risk in getting a guy in free agency with Smith, with Lewan, with Wynn. All those guys have serious question marks. I'd rather start fresh with somebody new. And then another guy that I think is pretty likely to happen at this point. Bud Dupree is somebody that's testing his market in free agency right now. It doesn't seem like he's getting what he expects, which is a starting role in a bigger contract. I think he's going to end up going somewhere as a rotational piece and as a backup. Josina Anderson from ESPN had this to say on Twitter the other day, and she says, "I'm told the Steelers have preliminary interest in bringing back edge rusher Bud Dupree if they deem he's healthy." A source said Dupree's name has definitely come up in Pittsburgh. We'll see if Josina Anderson's from CBS, not ESPN. That is my bad. We'll see if they end up together once he sorts out his market following his release from Tennessee. So personally, guys, I think Bud Dupree, this is a deal that's probably going to be likely to happen. I think he's still testing out that market, seeing if he can get a starting role. Don't think it's going to happen. I think that there's a pretty darn good chance he ends up back in Pittsburgh as that third rotational edge rusher. Then strong safety, another interesting position to see if the Steelers will add a piece here in free agency. They've already re-signed DeMonte Kazee. Of course, you got Minkah Fitzpatrick. So in theory, you could make it work with those two guys. But last year, the Steelers ran a lot of three safety packages when DeMonte Kazee came back from injury in the second half of the season. And I would like to see that return. You still got some good guys in free agency with Edmonds, who was very solid for the Steelers last year. You got Adrian Amos, formerly with the Packers, has had some good seasons in Green Bay. And then Rodney McLeod, another really good player, somebody that grades really high, getting a bit older, but somebody that I think the Steelers would really like as well. And the big question with this, guys, is that are the Steelers going to sign another safety? I mean, I think that it's going to depend on the money. It's going to depend on a couple of different things, but I think that they would like to add another safety. And personally, I would love to see them do it because I think they had some really, really great looks with that three safety package. I'd love to see that return next season. Then there's a couple of guys that they could re-sign here. Zach Gentry, they could bring him back as that blocking tight end. Really did a good job for the Steelers last year in the run game in the second half of the year. And then Derek Watt, fan favorite fullback. Kind of depends on what he's asking for in terms of compensation. I wouldn't bring him back for anything more than maybe $1.5 million on a one-year deal maybe because he is getting older, but these are two guys that you can definitely take a look at. And then a wide receiver option to keep your eye on is Jarvis Landry, somebody that's a veteran, somebody that's tough, somebody that is relatively cheap. Pro Football Focus projects his contract to be about 1 year, $3 million. That's what he played for in New Orleans last season. And man, he would provide a different flavor than Calvin Austin III. I think Jarvis Landry would be more that early downs slot wide receiver, somebody that's a good blocker in the slot. Calvin Austin III is 5'9", 160 pounds. He's not really going to do much for you in terms of run blocking on early downs. It'd be nice to have that kind of thicker presence there at slot wide receiver on early downs. I think Jarvis Landry would be a great addition to the Steelers locker room. So before I go, I have one last free agency target to share with you guys, and it might be a little bit out of left field here because the Steelers have addressed inside linebacker yesterday with Landon Roberts, and they cut Myles Jack, and some people are assuming that the Steelers are done at inside linebacker. But hear me out here. I think that they could still potentially make a move for Bobby Wagner. Now, Bobby Wagner has not been linked to the Steelers as of yet. He's been more linked to Buffalo and Las Vegas. But if Omar Khan really wanted to make a splash here, I mean, Landon Roberts is a really good blitzing linebacker. You could use him kind of as like a nickel/dime blitzing linebacker on third downs and such. And Bobby Wagner could come in right next to Cole Holcomb, and you could have one of the best linebacker corps in the National Football League, in my opinion. You'd have an elite player at all three levels, right? You would have like Cam Heyward, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith down below. You got Minkah Fitzpatrick in the secondary, and then you have Bobby Wagner. And right now, I mean, PFF says that you can get him for a one-year contract, $6.5 million. I mean, I think that that's a fantastic value for somebody that was the number one highest graded inside linebacker in the National Football League last year. I think that's one hell of a deal. And to bring him into Pittsburgh, it kind of depends if he deems Pittsburgh as a legitimate option. We take a look at the depth chart here. You do have Landon Roberts and Cole Holcomb, which is solid. I would be okay with this if the Steelers ended up going with this going into the season. But if you add an elite player like Bobby Wagner, I just think this defense goes from great to elite, and that's a move that I am willing to make. All right, guys, so who will Pittsburgh sign next in NFL free agency? I just gave you guys 11 names. You could pick from my list. You could pick someone else. Did I miss somebody? Let me know in the comment section right now. That's going to be it for me today, Yinzers. I appreciate you. Have a very happy St. Patrick's Day. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.